KREM 2 News at Noon begins now.
Hi everyone, today on KREM 2 News at Noon, the latest from the campaign trail as Vice President Kamala Harris continues to gain support from key Democrats. Plus tonight, President Biden expected to address the nation.
And it's starting to get a little bit breezy today, and with that, the fire danger increases. We'll show you what areas have the highest fire danger in the next 48 hours.
And Delta Airlines is now under investigation as hundreds of flights are still being canceled following last week's cyber outage. Hi everyone, it is so good to see you. Welcome to KREM 2 News at Noon. I'm Laura Papetti, and we begin with weather. Certainly cooling off a bit here in the inland northwest, but we are looking at some gusty conditions this week and the coming days, which could certainly raise our risk for fire. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick is standing by with the very latest. And Thomas, that's always a concern. Things are so dry following heat and then that wind kicking up. Give us some context and perspective of where we're at.
Yeah, quite simply put, Laura, the stronger the winds are, the higher the fire danger is. It's more related to wind than it is heat on its own merit. Even though today is going to be a decently hot day, it's really tomorrow, our windiest day, that'll have the highest of fire dangers. But as we look today, starting to heat up really fast. Certainly can feel it on the back of my neck. We're at 87 as of the noon hour, so we got one more 90-degree day ahead of us. And today will mark now the 20th day in a row at 90 or above. 6 of those days were also at 100 or above, so obviously conditions are incredibly dry and scorched, really due to the high heat, and we have not seen very much, if any, rain in the last 3 weeks here, and then some. So tomorrow, when these winds are a bit stronger for the inland northwest, red flag warnings will start to go into effect. At the moment, they are considered fire weather watches for eastern Washington, though today the strongest winds are going to be in the Okanagan Valley. So red flag warnings already in effect from 2 to 9 o'clock today, and then it's eastern Washington for tomorrow. And here's the thing, it's the wind, not the heat. In fact, tomorrow is going to be our coolest day of the forecast because this storm center is going to move directly overhead. So conditions get colder, but they do get windier. Coming up, we're going to give you the timeline of when those winds will be at their peak for the Spokane area. So my full forecast is in just a couple minutes.
Tonight, President Biden is set to deliver a primetime address from the Oval Office, of course, talking about his decision not to seek re-election. This comes as Vice President Kamala Harris continues to make the case for her own presidential bid at an event in Indiana, while her rival, former President Donald Trump, holds his own rally in North Carolina. Natalie Brand reports now from Washington, D.C.
Vice President Kamala Harris is riding a wave of momentum as she's locked up the Democratic delegate support to become the presidential nominee.
I will spend the coming weeks continuing to unite our party so that we are ready to win in November.
The vice president drew a crowd of more than 3,000 Tuesday in the battleground state of Wisconsin, a crowd so large organizers say they had to find a larger venue.
Do we want to live in a country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law, or a country of chaos, fear, and hate?
At the White House, President Biden is set to address the nation tonight about his decision to exit the 2024 race and lay out plans for his final 6 months on the job.
He wants to talk directly to all of you, to the American people, to talk about what's next.
Former President Donald Trump, who holds a rally tonight in North Carolina, is trying to make the new presidential matchup about border security and is accusing the vice president of being more liberal than President Biden.
She's far more radical than he is. She wants open borders. She wants things that nobody wants.
The Trump campaign has also filed a complaint with the Federal Election Commission claiming that the transfer of over $91 million from the Biden to the Harris campaign is a campaign finance violation, although the funds raised had been authorized for both President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
With the general election just a few months away, there is a new poll showing nearly 20% of Washington voters are undecided about repealing the state's Climate Commitment Act. KREM 2's Brandon T. Jones has the very latest on the initiative.
Yeah, for starters, the Climate Commitment Act created a cap and invest program capping emissions and requiring polluters to purchase allowances. Ultimately, what that means is that the allowances or the money coming from those polluters will be invested back into the state in the form of climate and environmental type projects. This recent poll conducted by our sister station King, the Seattle Times, and the University of Washington Center for an Informed Public shows 18% of voters are still undecided about repealing the act. I-2117 was organized by a group called Let's Go Washington, who's leading the charge on repealing. The sponsors say the cost of allowances were passed on to drivers at the pump and dispute the ways the funds are being spent. Supporters for the Climate Commitment Act dispute the repeal and say this movement to appeal is really just about gas prices and that I-2117 wouldn't guarantee that those prices go down. As for the poll, 48% of respondents said they expect to vote yes on initiative I-2117. 34% said they expect to vote no. Both supporters and opponents of the initiative believe that those 18% of voters who are undecided can make a major impact once Election Day comes around in November. But for now, reporting here in Spokane, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
All right, taking a look now at I-90, where traffic is looking a whole lot better than it did just hours ago. And we now know what led to an accident that caused those major eastbound backups near Sherman Street. Washington State Patrol says a motorcycle trooper attempted to pull over a car along I-90 westbound near about mile marker 272. The car then exited the freeway and then got back on going eastbound. That's when the car crashed into the center divide, flipping over with a piece of the car flying off, hitting another car in the oncoming lane. The driver was taken to the hospital, and WSP says no one else was injured. So traffic open there. All right, happening now. An urgent search to find a man suspected of robbing a Spokane convenience store at gunpoint. This happened yesterday, the issue afternoon near North Central High School. The suspect ran when police arrived and then managed to get away. So these pictures are from security cameras at that store. Police say the suspect is a man wearing a black sweatshirt and blue jeans. They also believe he may have robbed another convenience store last Thursday. So if you recognize him or have any information, you are asked to call 911. 12:07 and still ahead right here on KREM 2 News at noon. Delta Airlines is now facing a formal investigation from the government as that airline continues to cancel hundreds of flights. What officials at the Department of Transportation are saying, coming up in 2 minutes.